Welcome back for episode 81 of Count Me In. I'm your host, Adam Larson, and I'm happy to share another conversation with you about various things affecting the accounting and finance world. Today's conversation features Andrew Royer, founder and CEO of Royer Accounting in British Columbia, Canada. Andrew is an entrepreneur who uses the tagline, "Transform your business from a cash-eating monster to a money-making machine." He loves working with other entrepreneurs to help them see cash flow issues and showing them how growth and profit go hand in hand. In this episode, Andrew shares a perspective on various accounting software options and how it can enhance work productivity to ultimately lead to a more profitable business. For a further explanation on what it means to be efficient and effective in business, keep listening as we head over to the conversation now.
So from your experience working with accountants and clients, what are some of the advantages to utilizing a desktop accounting software?
Okay, well, in some cases, you don't really have a choice. If you're in an area that's got a slow or unstable internet connection, you're not going to be able to use an online application. Another benefit is that the applications, the desktop versions that are like installed on your computer, tend to be a lot more robust and have more features available to them. And a couple other there's a one-time cost option which you don't get online generally, and you have more control over the upgrades. You can decide when you're going to install it. You don't have to worry about them installing it when you're you're busy with something.
And that makes sense. And then I guess the opposite here, the online accounting software, what are some advantages to utilizing some of that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest advantage is you're not tied to your computer. So a lot of the software, you can access it on your phone. You take your laptop, you sit on the beach. Not that you want to be working on the beach, but it's better than working in an office. But yeah, if you get a call at home, you're able to look information up. And enter information when you need to. You don't have to worry about so the benefit of the desktop is that you get control over the installations. The downside or the benefit of the online is that you don't have to worry about the installation. Somebody's doing the installations, they're backing up the software, they're installing the updates for you. And it's also easy to give access to your staff. You give access to accountants and bookkeepers, whereas on a desktop version, unless you're getting into really expensive enterprise kind of options, it's hard to get multiple people involved. And the online makes that, the interconnectedness is very powerful. And you can also make up, so the shortfall of the online, which I mentioned before, was that you have less power than the desktop, but with the online, you can actually integrate with thousands of apps that will increase the power of the online. So there's a lot of benefits. You're not closed and tied to what the desktop gives you. You can add whatever features you want.
So I guess a lot of it sounds like, there are pros and cons to both of these. For those who are interested in, looking at different software options, whether it's desktop or online, we'll start with desktop to stay consistent here. How do you go about determining which desktop software is right for you?
Well, in my opinion, it's largely preference. I've used most of the different options out there, the big names anyway. So the primary options are QuickBooks Desktop, and then the Simply Accounting or the Sage version. So those are the two main competitors. There may be some advantages to one or the other based on the size of the company or the particular industry that you're in. But otherwise, I find it's mostly preference. I find more technically minded tend to prefer the Simply Accounting, and the QuickBooks. If you're just getting started, QuickBooks tends to be simpler, easier to use. So a lot of people start with that.
And then what are some of your options on the flip side? Like I said, what are some of the ways that you can choose the right online accounting software, and what are some of those examples?
Yeah, I think so. Picking the right online software is probably a little tougher. For our firm, what we've done is we've gone, just to be consistent, we've gone with QuickBooks Online just across the board for everybody. QuickBooks has been in the market the longest in online, and so they have the most integrations with other software out there. It's easier to find people that are more familiar with it and able. So it's easier to find people and to work with it, and so there's less training involved with that. And I mean, it's not perfect. There's issues with it that drive me nuts, but it's kind of, I consider it's the worst system until you consider the alternatives. So then we look at like Sage has started the game a little bit later. I think they were digging their claws into the desktop version and really just didn't want to let it go. And so they joined the game a little bit later, and they have a lot less integrations than QuickBooks. And otherwise, I think between the two, it's more of just a preference thing. And then the last one, the one that I've been keeping my eye on a lot is Xero, Xero. So they never had a desktop version. So both QuickBooks and Sage, they were basically competing with themselves, trying to create some of the same features that they had in the desktop version. Xero didn't have that liability, so they were able to just create something from scratch, make it the way that they wanted to with an online interface. Some of the issues that they end up getting into with that is that people are used to doing things a certain way with all other accounting software, and they've kind of done just something completely different. The biggest benefit with Xero is it works great with the foreign exchange transactions, which can be tougher in both QuickBooks Online and Sage. And really, the only reason that we haven't moved everybody over to it is it's really lacking in the Canadian sales side. So the sales tax handling, they're working on it, but until that's done, I can't even consider it. But we're definitely keeping our eye on that one as potentially a future leader in this industry.
So you've said it a few times where it really comes down to personal preference. And I assume that goes for most people who are considering any of these different options. I assume it really revolves around what your ultimate goals are. And one of them, I'm sure, for most is the overall productivity, right? Your ability to be flexible and get the job done efficiently and effectively. So how do these various software options ultimately lead to a more productive accounting and finance team?
Well, I think all of these options, whether it's desktop or online, what they're doing is they're computerizing a process that was originally, journals and pens. And beyond that, I really think like the advantages for the productivity you start to see that a lot more on the online world, where you're able to have all of those sort of integrations. And that's the main reason that we went with QuickBooks Online, is because of all of the other integrations that it has and the automations that we're able to do with it. So that productivity is like when you can obviously the first thing you want to do is try and see what tasks that you can just get rid of, and then once you've gotten rid of the tasks, you try and automate as much as you can. And so this software allows you to do that, which will free up a lot of your time. Also, if you're using a whole bunch of different systems, if you can get them to communicate and integrate with one another, then you can get rid of some of those redundancies, the human error entering it in multiple systems. And I guess the ultimate goal is that you're trying to get some solid financials as quickly as possible. The faster you get those financials sitting in front of you, the faster that you can review those numbers and see where you need to make changes. You can shift your business. Especially say something catastrophic like COVID happens. It gives you that information faster, so you can see maybe where your expenses have gotten out of control and where you need to make some cuts.
Yeah, I mean, that leads right into my next question. You kind of just hit on it there, but with this productivity and additional available time, I'm sure everyone else's goal is, you want to make a profit. So from the firm side of things, how does all of this ultimately lead to a more profitable business?
Yeah, I mean, so you get lower costs. You should less staff time, potentially delaying hiring staff, so you can reduce some costs by getting more of the stuff automated and more efficient, and so one person can do more. And it frees up some of your time to do things like looking at cash flow management, so you can figure out how you're going to survive over the next 3 to 6 months or a year. And you get that information in front of you faster and just be able to make better decisions, be able to capitalize on opportunities as they arise and try and mitigate some of those risks as you see them.
Ultimately, you have this profitable business now. You're working productively. Again, from the firm side, what is your definition of an efficient and effective business? Obviously we're aiming for these profitable goals, but what does that look like on the daily basis or weekly, monthly? Some of the key indicators of a business that's, running well.
Yeah, I mean, we need to do is we need to communicate with our clients on a weekly basis and make sure that we're getting the information from them, and make sure that we're giving them, the information that they need to be able to make their decisions on. Generally, what we do is on a monthly basis, we produce reports for our clients. And I think what's important is that we have to look at those numbers frequently. This is why I prefer, like in our business, we do primarily, we do both tax, we do tax and bookkeeping, but our focus has been on the bookkeeping because we want to be involved in the client on a month-to-month basis. And the key is to get to being efficient and to being effective for ourselves and to help our clients to be efficient and effective we need to be able to not only provide those numbers, but be able to give feedback, give advice on those numbers to see where changes need to be made and start to indicate where some problems might be coming up. And the software is necessary. There's no way that we'd be able to do what we do without the software. It allows us to essentially be for these smaller companies that can't afford to hire, full accounting teams internally. It allows them to hire a company like ourselves that can advise them with, we're able to do this with a much smaller staff and with at a much lower price than it would be to hire somebody internally.
Well, my last question for you today, I know you have various areas of expertise and, your accounting background is pretty diverse into where you got today with your entrepreneurial mindset. So I'm just curious about your perspective on how you see accounting evolving even more in the future. You talked about going from desktop to online. There's a lot of automation, a lot of talk about different technology. In your mind, what do you think may be next for the industry?
Well, I still think a lot of the technology that's out there, I know there's a big concern that it's going to, I've heard talk of it replacing accountants and bookkeepers, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. But I do see that there's going to be a surge, like there's going to be a growth in the software industry. This automation is going to become a big thing. I think people that are remaining on the desktop versions are going to suffer in the long run. I think the online world is going to continue to grow, become a lot more powerful. And I think accountants and bookkeepers are going to have to get on board that and take advantage of that. And I think what it'll do is it'll allow us to be able to offer a lot more with a lot less staff and resources, which I think is going to be important because we're going to be seeing a big exit of accounting professionals, and so there's going to be a lot less of us required to do the same amount, if not more, work.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.